Okay, I'm back. And you're still not back. Why not? That's okay, you're eating lunch and I'm going to. But I have something more important to do. Let's focus on this idea of PIQD, patterns, insights, questions, and decisions. There's so much great feedback in your evaluations. I don't want to answer all of the big, giant questions. You know which questions I'm going to answer? The ones that are coming up as patterns. That's right. That's what we want to do. Focus on the patterns in your life. Focus on the patterns in your relationships. Right? I mean, it's the old adage, the old joke that every relationship I'm a part of, it falls apart, it sucks, there's no trust. You're the only constant in all of those relationships, so maybe we need to do a little self-reflection, right? So we want to look for patterns in our organization. What are all of your people saying? What are the executives saying? Here's the best pattern. When the executives are saying the same thing that the departments are saying, that the same thing that the leaders are saying, that the same thing that the employees are saying, now you got buy-in. We can work on that. And if you start working on something, they're going to look at it as change. Nobody likes change. But we all like innovation, don't we? It's innovation if it's their idea. It's change if it's your idea. So the goal is to get buy-in and to help people feel like this was their idea and it's also their success. It's their idea, their opportunity, their success. So look for the patterns, look for the things that you can get immediate buy-in on because more people are saying it. It's coming up again and again. It's coming up in a pattern of time, in cycles. Maybe it's a quarterly thing. Maybe it's a weekly thing. Maybe it's every time we have our performance reviews, our people are really miserable for about a week. Maybe it's because of the performance reviews. Maybe we're doing something wrong. Let's look at that. But you gotta look for the patterns. When is it coming up? Where is it coming up? With whom is it coming up? If it's one person over and over and over and over and over again and no one else is saying that, well then maybe we gotta look deeper at the relationship with that person. Not immediately fire them, but look at the relationship with that person and the way that person has a relationship with the company. Because that person might be your boss, right? Might be the owner of the company. So number one, we look for patterns. You need to be a detective. That's the hardest part or the easiest part. I notice patterns immediately. And so I want you to start training yourself to look for patterns in conversations. Like, I don't know how I'm gonna do that. Have more conversations. I have all the easy answers, don't I? Have more conversations with people and ask better questions. How are you? Leads to a okay, fine, right? And that's about it. You don't get much information from that, but what's the best part of your day so far? You get a lot of information from that. Right? What are you looking most forward to with the meeting coming up or the new hire training? That's where you get information from better questions. I mean, ask any parent, how was your day at school? It was good. Every kid had a good day at school today. Every one of them. So that's bad parenting. That's what that is. Let's ask better questions. What made you smile today? What did you learn today? My kids always say, I didn't learn anything today. Okay, well, if you did learn something, what did you learn? You ask them different questions. I once had a 10-minute conversation about a relationship that my son was having a problem with at school because I asked him what he learned and he said nothing. He learned something in that relationship. So look for those patterns. From patterns, we create insights. Okay, what is this telling us? And I'm going to give you 3 questions to ask to get to those insights. Right? You're like, Joe, that's backwards. Well, sometimes you have to make a decision to get the insight. Sometimes you have to make multiple decisions. I mean, don't all patterns come from the decisions, right? It's a process, but it also works. Sometimes we have to do things a little differently. So I'm going to give you 3 questions in a moment. I want you to start getting the insights, not judging it, not saying it's wrong, not saying you're a bad person or a bad supervisor or a bad leader. Just hear it for what it is. And then ask better questions. And I'm going to give you those. And then from those questions, you make decisions. So you ready for it? Here is the whole purpose of the video. It's 3 questions. The first game-changing question is, what does this say about our culture? Okay, so if you're having a mass exodus, lots of people were quitting during the pandemic, what's that say about our culture? Good, bad, indifferent, doesn't matter. What does it say? Does it say that people don't like our culture? Does it say that people aren't making enough money during the pandemic? Does it say that people are afraid of the virus? What is it saying? Look for the reality, look for the truth. And if you don't know, ask. Ask. And I know you're not going to get all the right answers. You might not even get all the honest answers, but look for patterns in the answers. The second question, what does this say about my leadership? Now you got to make it a little personal because you're in charge. And when I say you're in charge, I mean, I don't care what position you have, you're in charge. You're in charge, you take ownership of that role, that relationship, all right? When I'm with my children, I'm in charge of that relationship. If it's not working, I got to take ownership and say, what can I do better? When I'm working with my wife, I got to take ownership and say, what can I do better? She might have done something wrong. My kids might have done something wrong in response to something I'm doing. How can I look at it and say, all right, so what am I doing as I lead in this conversation, in this relationship? As the COO of the Total Solutions Group, I'm constantly asking, what does it say about my leadership if such and such is happening? If people are saying, hey, I'm unable to make it to that meeting for whatever reason. Okay, is there something that I've done that I've misconstrued and said, I maybe didn't let them know that it was a really important meeting? Did I not send the agenda in advance? Did I not get them engaged about something? Now, luckily, that doesn't happen here because we're constantly asking, what does this say about my leadership? But then lastly, and this is a good slap in the face, how can we take 100% responsibility? How much? How much responsibility? 100%. How can we take 100%? You're like, I shouldn't, that's not my job. Oh, don't be that person. How can we take 100% responsibility and do something about it? You're like, but it's my boss. No, it's your relationship with your boss. It's the CEO of the company. He doesn't listen to anything. She doesn't do anything that she wants to do. She's always complaining. It's the dynamic that you have with this person, and maybe you don't have the leverage you think you have. Because here's what I know. I'm reading these evaluations, and I want to be able to respond to these evaluations. So check this out. This is what I'm seeing here. Excellent program, engaging. So I love that you're saying, okay, excellent program. It's engaging and empowering. Do you want that for your culture? What did you see during the session that made you say, ooh, this is empowering. I want my people to feel this way, right? Very memorable presentation. Thank you. Don't you want your people leaving their first day experience or training or onboarding or their performance reviews, stop calling it that, saying this was memorable? You want to know why I push against performance reviews? Just because there's a stigma, there's a feeling about it. You know what my doctor calls my performance review? A wellness checkup. A wellness checkup. That's what your performance reviews are. When there's something bad that's happening, we're going to do that. We're going to check in on that all the time, right? You schedule your sick visits. I'm having a problem. I'm going to go to the doctor. I got to check out my wellness visit. Everything seems to be fine, except for all the other things that I have, right? But the wellness checkup is to check in on what's going well. How have we created wellness in this relationship, in this department, in this dynamic, in this organization? Because the sick stuff, that's not a surprise. We've had meetings about that. If I did something wrong in the organization, you as my boss, please don't wait 90 days to tell me. Tell me up front. So that when I get to my performance review, my wellness checkup, we can reflect on successes and growth. All right? How does one start the conversation? This is great. With the owner of the company regarding a lack of culture and direction. That depends on your relationship with that person. If that person is open and willing and caring and says, I want to know and I want to learn and I want to hear, that's an easy conversation. You just say, here's what I've heard. I checked in, had conversations with more than 10 people. Here are the patterns. Here are the insights. Here are the questions. I have some recommendations on decisions. When would you like to set a meeting? See if you get their buy-in. Don't just sell it to them. Get their permission to sell it to them. Same thing if you have someone who does not want that information, or worse, they're part of the problem. You got to remember, we're all part of the problem. We created this. How can you take 100% responsibility and say, okay, if my boss, if the owner of the company that I've been working at for 6 months or 6 years doesn't want this, what have I done in my leadership to say that this is okay and we should be operating like this? And how can I do this differently so that over the course of the days, the weeks, the months, and yeah, it might even take a year, I can get enough buy-in where this person says, okay, we got to do something about this, but it takes time. We don't love change. We love innovation. Evolution takes a long time. Thank you. This was a great session. I'm just like reading all your comments here because there was a really funny one that I want to get to. And it was simply this one. I loved this session. I want to quit my job and work for Joe Urbanski. Seriously. And I love that and I appreciate it. And while I'm not hiring you just yet right now, but there's never say never, I'm always open to stuff. Think about that again as a demonstration, right? So if I am the CEO of this organization where all 76 of us, yeah, I counted, all 76 of us are having a town hall. That's what this is, right? Conversational. I'm leading and guiding, but you are all part of the dynamic. What's actually happening here? Why are you leaving this saying, I want to work for this person? Think about that as the demonstration and start doing that. Start being that person. Start role modeling, okay? That's one of those steps. Thanks for a wonderful morning. No, thank you. Listen, this doesn't work without me. I mean, this works without me. It doesn't work without you. It's totally what I meant to say. And I'm not even going to edit this. You're going to know that I am a flawed, very flawed human being. Look, I don't have any hair. The session was amazing. Thank you. Great information. Look, that's the first time someone said anything about information. See, because we don't need information. It's everywhere. I'm on it right now. I have my phone. There's plenty of information. What I need is an experience. So how can we build an experience? Presentation was amazing. Thank you for your time. We should come to a point in my company. You'd be my first thought. Thank you. I love that. I need to bring back for the HR VP. Yes, share this information. I will share with you slides and all sorts of things. Share away. You got permission to come here, say, hey, do I have my permission now to share with you some of the things I've learned? Can we set a follow-up? Because I know it and you know it. I'm gonna wrap up this video. You're like, Joe, nobody does 12-minute videos. This guy does. Apparently he doesn't stop. Because I'm really trying to cram this, right? But you don't wanna cram. So here's the last thing. You leave sessions all the time. You go to conferences all the time, pandemic aside, with a bag, booklets, notes, pages. And you bring that back to your office and put that on your desk on top of all the notes and books and pages and pamphlets from the last year's conference, right? I know you do it. It's hard to activate this because there's so much. So go back to the first video, focus on what's really most important. Focus on RMI. Choose the 1 or 2 or 3 things that will make all the difference and say, I'd like to have a meeting about these 3 things. When can we make this a priority? And do that within the next 30 days. Thank you. I will talk to you soon. I will see you again soon. You rock. I appreciate it. Now let's go do the good work.